Let's get across to State Bank of India as they spoke post the numbers.
In fact, they are very strong because if you leave aside the provisioning, but the operating income shows a phenomenal growth, 11%. And that too in a scenario where we have brought down our MCLR considerably in the last 1 year, and there has been some pressure on the net interest margin on account of elevated stressed assets. So in these circumstances, the Q2, in my view, has been a phenomenal quarter. And the SBI Life stake sale, yes, it also did help. But if we take that into account, then the operating profit has gone up by 42%. And the provisioning, as I said in my earlier interaction with the press and the media, that we have tried to strengthen the balance sheet of the bank and its loss absorption capacity. If more than 400 basis point increase in the provision coverage ratio, where the bank's NPA is in the range of 186,000 crore. So that is a fairly good amount, and it gives strength to the bank that going forward, even if there is something unexpected, bank is in a position to take care of such eventualities.
Right. I'm glad you brought up the slippages part, because when you look at the recovery side of the story, there it's largely led by the retail and the SME segment. When are we likely to see, some kind of recoveries coming in from your corporate slippages?
Right. So retail and SME is much more of a continuous process in the sense that every day you recover something. But when it comes to the mid corporates or large corporates, these cases are always very complex. And many of the cases are before NCLT and many more are going before NCLT. But I'm very hopeful that the cases which have been referred to NCLT in the first list, which were 12 in number, and 11 have been referred, in one case there are some issues which are going on in the higher courts. So these 11 cases before March 18, we will definitely know that in what direction are we moving. But the response has been fairly good, particularly for the steel sector. We have seen very good interest, and that gives me confidence that the resolutions will happen, or at least the resolution plans will be ready for all these assets by March 18. Even if we look at the results of the steel companies today, they have shown improved performance. And that is again a very heartening feature, that because the major component of NPAs are in the steel sector, and because the sector is turning around, so there should be much less pain for the banks.
The corporate slippages number has come down during this quarter. Is this some kind of a trend that we're going to likely to see? Is most of the recognition done?
Basically, when you are looking at the number here, it's better to have at least a look at the 2-3 quarters rather than just on a single quarter basis. As I said, that retail and SME is always a very steady story. But when it comes to corporate, if one large account, say for example, goes down in one quarter, then that number can become distorted. So it is not a good idea to look at corporate slippages on a quarterly trend. It's very difficult to discern a trend. But as far as retail is concerned, including agriculture and SME, the trend is very much there, and the performance of the bank there is again quite heartening as far as the control over the asset quality is concerned. Our retail portfolio is 9.5 lakh crore, and to keep the slippages, net slippages in the range of say 1.25 to 1.5% in our country, so that is something which will be within the tolerance limit of the bank, and we can easily take care of such type of slippages.
All right, so just to close this interaction, the corporate loan book growth, that has been largely pulling down the rest of your the total loan book growth. When are we likely to see some kind of recovery on that front, where demand returns?
For some time, we have also to take into consideration that a lot of deleveraging is happening as far as the corporate sector is concerned. The better rated corporates, they are approaching the money markets, and the increase in the corporate bond and CP is very substantial. So if the deleveraging is happening and the capacity utilization in many industries is such that the fresh investment is not being attracted in these sectors. But the spending plan of the government on the infrastructure sector, which should lead the growth in future. But when we are talking about the infrastructure funding or financing, there is always a time lag. And that time lag is minimum 6 months. Even if I sanction a project today, the first disbursement cannot happen before at least a year. So in that situation, whatever is happening on the corporate side is just the refinancing of the existing credit. Fresh credit is still, I think we are 6 to 9 months away where we can see the real growth happening. But I think we should not be unduly worried about it, because ultimately what matters is your return on assets and return on equity. But let me assure you that any good viable projects or the credit requirement, they will be met by State Bank of India.